My name is Lillian. I am 99 years old, and if I could give you back all the time you're about to waste after 50, I would. What I can do instead is tell you exactly where most people throw away the second half of their lives and what actually matters once the noise finally clears. Because that's what age gives you if you're willing to look honestly. Not wisdom, not magic, just clarity. And clarity is worth more than almost anything else. Here are 7 things that, in my experience, are a complete waste of time after 50. The 7th one is the hardest to accept because it feels entirely reasonable until it quietly costs you years. 1. Competing with other people. Most of us were raised in competition mode. Grades, careers, promotions, money, everything was a scoreboard. But around 50, if you're still playing that game, you start to realize you're not even in the same race anymore. You're running in circles, trying to prove something to people who aren't keeping score. You see someone your age who just got promoted, bought a bigger house, or seems to have the perfect retirement plan, and suddenly you feel behind. But you don't even want what they have. Focus on this instead. Compete with your past self. Measure progress by how aligned your life feels with what actually matters to you, not how impressive it looks to someone else. If you're more grounded, more at peace, and more yourself than you were 5 years ago, you're winning in ways most people will never understand. 2. Tying your identity to your career. For years, your job title was shorthand for who you were, your worth, your purpose, your status. Maybe you introduced yourself by your profession for 30 decades, and then that chapter ends, or you outgrow it, and suddenly you don't know what to say when someone asks who you are. That's the trap. If your entire identity depends on what you do, then who are you when you stop doing it? Focus on this instead. Challenge the belief that you need a label to matter. Reinvest in curiosity, creativity, and contribution, the things that make you feel alive even when no one is paying you for them. The second chapter of life isn't about climbing higher, it's about going deeper. 3. Forcing yourself to finish things that aren't serving you. We were taught that quitting is failure. Finish what you start. Push through. So we force ourselves through books we stopped enjoying, shows that lost us 3 episodes ago, projects that stopped mattering halfway through, hobbies we convinced ourselves we should love but never actually did. And what happens? You waste hours, sometimes months, on things that add nothing to your life just so you can say you finished. After 50, you start to understand that your time is finite, really finite. And spending it on mediocre experiences just to avoid the label of quitter is one of the worst trades you can make. Focus on this instead. Give yourself permission to stop. Redirect that energy toward things that actually engage you, challenge you, or bring you genuine joy. Finishing something mediocre doesn't make you disciplined. It just makes you stubborn. Your time is the most valuable thing you have. Spend it on what's worth finishing. 4. Doing things because you think you're supposed to. How much of your life is spent performing obligation? And I don't mean the unavoidable hard things we all have to push through. I mean the things we have control over but convince ourselves we don't. The family gathering you didn't want to attend, the committee you joined out of guilt, the favor for someone who never reciprocates. There's a real difference between genuine kindness and people-pleasing. One comes from choice, the other comes from fear. Focus on this instead. Invest your energy in relationships and commitments where your presence is genuinely valued. Do things for others because you want to, or because you know it's right and you've made peace with that, not to earn love or approval. When you give from choice instead of obligation, you give fully, and you leave with your dignity intact. 5. Needing to be right. By 50, you've hopefully learned that most people in an argument aren't looking for truth. They're looking to win. And if you get pulled into that game, you'll lose hours, sometimes days, trying to convince people who made up their minds before the conversation started. The need to have the last word is one of the most expensive habits there is. Focus on this instead. Value peace over being right. You can still hold opinions, you can still have boundaries, but you don't have to defend your existence in every conversation. Learn to say you might be right, or simply say nothing and move on. The moment you stop needing to win, you reclaim something far more valuable than the argument. 6. Tolerating people who drain you. You know exactly who I'm talking about. People who only call when they need something. Friends who turn every conversation back to themselves. Acquaintances who leave you exhausted every single time. These aren't necessarily bad people, they're just expensive. And after 50, you simply can't afford them anymore. Every hour you spend with someone who depletes you is an hour you're not spending with people who energize you, or simply time you could have spent quietly with yourself. Focus on this instead. Protect your energy like the finite resource it is. Invest in relationships that are reciprocal, where you feel seen, valued, and genuinely glad you showed up. You don't owe anyone your presence just because they're used to having it. Creating distance from people who consistently take more than they give isn't cruelty, it's self-respect. 7. Expecting people to be different than they are. This is the last illusion to fall away, and the most painful one. The belief that people will eventually become who you wish they were, that if you're patient enough, loving enough, or clear enough, they'll finally change. They won't. And holding on to that fantasy keeps you locked in disappointment and quiet resentment for years. Now, let me be clear. Having standards isn't the problem. You should absolutely expect honesty, respect, and reliability from the people in your life. Those aren't high expectations. They're the foundation of any real relationship. But there's a difference between expecting certain behavior because it's part of a healthy relationship and insisting that someone who has consistently shown you who they are will someday rise to meet a standard they've never shown interest in meeting. When someone repeatedly shows you who they are, believe them. Focus on this instead. Accept reality without bitterness. You can't control how other people behave, only how you respond. Once you stop waiting for someone to become a different person, you're free to ask the honest question, can I live with who this person actually is? Do I adjust or do I create distance? That's where peace begins. Not in changing them, in reclaiming your clarity.